So you want to get sober, and people are telling you that AA is the best way to go, that you should just get your butt to an AA meeting and everything's miraculously going to be okay. But you have no idea what to expect. And if you're anything like me, you got anxiety and you're coming off the alcohol and you don't know what's going on and you don't know how it's going to be. Sure, you've seen the movies where everyone's crying in each other's arms and singing kumbaya and staying sober. And you also see lots of things where people get angry and share emotions and deal with all kinds of things. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about what an AA meeting is actually like. Do you need AA to get and stay sober? Are AA meetings helpful, or do they do more harm than good? So we're going to wrap this topic up for you and start to help you understand what you need to put in your tool belt for sobriety. Do you need to go to AA meetings? Can you do it on your own? Can you just stop drinking spontaneously? We're going to talk about all that, and we're going to share with you exactly what our experiences were like when going to AA meetings. Because I got to tell you, the last thing I wanted to do was find myself in a meeting with a bunch of other alcoholics, admitting my innermost thoughts, and as a lot of people think, maybe admitting some things I don't really want to share with other people. So, we're going to talk about how that all works and what to expect when you walk into an AA meeting and how to get the most out of whatever recovery method you're trying to use. So, Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm
All right.
sober and it's a beautiful, chilly day.
Excellent. All right. How's our audio quality, everyone? We sounding okay? These are live, so we have to make sure that everything is working up to par. So, Terry, I know that our recoveries have ended up in the same place. We're both here and we're both sober, but we kind of took different methods to get here. In the beginning, I did the 90 meetings in 90 days because, if they told me to, carry an elephant in my pocket every day, I would have done that if that was what got me sober. So I did the 90 meetings in 90 days, and it was very anxiety provoking. And now we found ourselves taking different routes. I know I went the philosophy reading, do it yourself kind of route. And I know you still do a lot of AA, which is good. And we want to support everyone with whatever you want to do. If it gets you sober and it doesn't hurt anyone, then hey, I think that's a good plan. So tell us what it was like for you going into the rooms, understanding, okay, I got to do the 90 meetings in 90 days. What were your expectations? Did you think, oh, after 90 days, I'm going to be cured? What was it like going into the first room saying, hey, I'm an alcoholic and all that?
Well, first of all, when I got sober, I didn't know what to do. I had been in the rooms before and showed up right when the meeting started, left right when it ended, didn't talk to anybody, sat there in the back with my arms crossed, and I did not stay sober. And so that was my first experience. I think I did that a couple of times before I got into rooms finally. But when I finally did get sober and was able to get some time in, up until now, I'm still sober. But I decided that I would do everything I possibly could to stay sober. And I didn't know what to do. There wasn't much online. I didn't really look, but there really wasn't that much online. And I didn't know of any other programs. I'd heard of other ones like Life Ring and a couple others while I was in rehab. But I knew that AA was easy to get to, and there are meetings everywhere. So I went to those. I also did what my doctor recommended, which if you're still suffering, that's what you need to do first is go to a doctor. They're going to steer you in the right direction. And he suggested that I go to the hospital group meetings, which I did. I went to those. Um, I stopped hanging around with my drinking friends, stopped going to bars. I did everything. I did not know what was going to trigger me to drink. So I just did everything that anybody suggested that I do. That is what I did. As far as going to meetings, I didn't know anything about a 90 meetings in 90 days or anything like that. I just went every day. I mean, I just got sober. I had no job, no life, no nothing. So I knew I had to figure out something to do with all this extra time that I have now that I'm not drunk or drinking. And so I went to meetings and that's that's pretty much where the journey started for me. And it worked, still sober, and when I went in, I did not show up right when the meeting started. Showed up early and just started talking to people. Stayed late, once again talking to people. Tried to participate a little bit. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know what to say, so I didn't share or anything like that. And you don't have to. You don't ever have to. There's lots of people with decades and decades of sobriety that don't talk much at all. They may celebrate their sobriety anniversary or something like that. That's about all they do. But I was intimidated when I went in there, and I was scared. And but the fact that I had to get sober and I really, really wanted to stay sober, that had to be more powerful than my fear of what other people were going to say or think. And that's what I just kept focusing on, is the fact that I have to stay sober. Don't worry about what other people think, what they say, nothing. Don't worry about that. And, nobody was judgmental. And up to this day, of course, people judge and things like that, and we're human. But very little judgment in the rooms, because, these are people that most of them are about where I was in my drinking career, or they've been there, about the same level of drunkenness, some a little less, some a lot more. Their stories are similar. Maybe we got to the rooms on a slightly different path, but if you look at just the mental obsession and the things that happen in the mind, it's almost the same for most people, and that's what really attracted me. Was I could talk to these people. We could laugh at some of the stupid things that people that aren't alcoholics would be like, why are you laughing at that? Laugh at those dumb stories, the things we did. And, that was something I could relate to. And
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going
So,
to say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we look at that, we have to understand where we're going. So, like when we go to AA or whatever meeting we're going to, we need to understand that it's primarily a self moderated group. So, you're in a group that's moderated by, like, hey, I just got sober and now I'm running a group. And we need to understand that oftentimes, we need to focus on the fact that we're there to get sober. All right. Now, when I first went in, for those of you who have met me in person, I think Terry's the only one, other than some guy I went to high school with that showed up on here one day. I'm a pretty small guy for an adult man. I'm like 5'1" on a good day with the right shoes on. And it's difficult for me because sometimes there's some interesting people in AA. Get people who just got out of jail, just got out of rehab, just got out of whatever. And we need to understand that this group, if you're choosing to go the AA route, and it is not the only way, there are other ways to get sober. We need to understand that that is the case. And Andrea says, tell me why AA has a 98% failure rate and people tell you it's the only hope. Well, yes, I do agree that that is a lie, that it is the only hope. People got sober before AA was around. I mean, up until the early 1900s, people weren't just falling over drunk and with no hope. So there is hope, and we need to look at what that hope lies in. And a lot of people choose to put their hope in something outside, where it's like, okay, I'm going to put my hope in AA, so I want this group to get me sober. If you go to AA looking for that group to get you sober, it's not going to work. What you need to do is you need to focus on getting tools that are going to help you. And one of the biggest struggles and biggest things that stopped me from sobriety in the beginning is I was very picky about where I got my truth, right? If I went to Terry, let's say we met today and I was an alcoholic and he's been sober 6 years, and he'd said something I don't like. Maybe he said, I like the Grateful Dead or whatever. I do like the Grateful Dead, but let's say I didn't like that. And I would basically tune off at that point and I'd say, well, Terry doesn't know what he's talking about. He likes the Grateful Dead. And, how could you get sober? Like, whatever it is. Or maybe he liked a certain religion or a certain group. Or maybe he said, AA is the only way. And at that moment, I would shut off. even though Terry probably has some things to say that could help me get and stay sober, I wouldn't listen because I'd have that wall up that says, oh, he's one of those guys, right? When in actuality, what we need to do is we need to focus on looking for answers everywhere. I heard early on in recovery that we only need a few good ideas to beat this. And what you're going to find out is when you get a lot of recovery under your belt, you're going to understand that there's really a couple things that are like go-tos, right? Like I know I listen to my talks. I focus on what I'm going to do to not drink. I convince myself that whatever I'm going through is temporary and not a real problem, even though it feels real at the time. And I really, really focus on what's going on and what I can do to help myself and help others. And we got to understand exactly what's going on and how we're going to do this. What am I going to do to stay sober? Because you can get all the knowledge, you can spend all the time in whatever rooms you want to try to get sober, but it's what you do that's going to get you sober. What am I going to do? Instead of going to the bar, what am I going to do? When I have a tough time, what am I going to do? We got to really focus on that and understand it. And when I first started going into AA meetings, I was thrown into a rehab, which was, basically an AA meeting for 30 days straight. And, I would embrace what I wanted to embrace and not embrace some other things. And then when I got out and I started going to rooms that were not related to a rehab, I found it difficult. I was really anxious. I struggled. It was really difficult. And even before I went to rehab, I had tried religious type groups. I went to Celebrate Recovery, which is basically like AA, and then they found Bible verses to go along with the AA, which was difficult for me because a lot of my drinking had to do with my religious upbringing. And so mixing those two wasn't the greatest thing. And so what we have to do is we have to understand what the purpose of the meeting is, right? Is it to make friends? Is it to look cool? Is it to share the biggest story? No, it's to get sober. And that's why we do that. And when you go into that, I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this, Terry, but I think in our rehab, it was like an AA meeting on steroids, right? It was like the AA meeting had just exploded, and now we're all living in an AA meeting. And when you live in an AA meeting, you start to see a lot of the little intro secrets, whatever that word is, little intricacies that happen. And, you see people that get involved in the drama of day to day life, get involved in what's going on with other people, and get invested in this. And while that's okay, I mean, that's part of normal social interaction, I think we need to do that in a way that we're somewhat detached. Because what we do is we need to realize that people can let us down. People in AA could let us down. People in churches, pastors, politicians can certainly let us down. And we have to look at this and start to understand, hey, this is about me. This is about going and getting what I need. And maybe that guy in the back will have something that's going to help me. Maybe this person will say something that's going to help me. And we're building our tool belt of sobriety rather than going and putting everything in one bucket and saying this needs to help get me sober. And we got to understand it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just one quick answer on the statistic, 98% failure rate. I wonder how they get that, first of all, because AA is an anonymous program. You don't sign in, you don't leave your name, you don't do anything. A lot of people that I've been in rooms with that have relapsed and may still be relapsing. I never met them. I don't remember them. I don't know. And these are meetings that I've gone to every day for years. So, I don't know how they come up with that statistic. There's really no way to do it. Same with rehabs. Rehabs will tell you that, we have a 95% success rate. Well, how do they know that? If somebody's gone to relapse, I know when I relapsed, and if they called me to see if I was still sober, I'd say, yeah, I'm still sober. Absolutely. I would have lied to them. So, the statistics really mean nothing. The only statistic that means anything to me is if I don't drink on a daily basis, I have a 100% chance of staying sober. And that's really all that matters. So don't get too tied up into statistics. And, for me, sobriety is learning a new way of life, and AA can help a person find a new way of life. They do have principles that are attached to every step. I've noticed that this isn't the case with everybody, absolutely not. But for most people, a lot of people have not gone through the steps thoroughly with the sponsor and all that, and really dug in with both feet. And a lot of them don't stay sober because of that. But some don't stay sober even though they've done all that. It's a mysterious disease. If there was just a magical answer, then we'd probably be all taking the non-alcoholic pill, right? But that's another important thing to realize is that it's like with college getting a degree. I mean, AA is not that. AA is an ongoing thing, but you have to, if you're going to get a degree, you have to do everything it takes to get that degree. With AA, for at least for me, I have to do everything it takes to stay sober. And so that's what I continue to do. And I just have to remember to do that. A lot of the people that I know that have gone out and relapsed and that have come back, their first thing they say is they stopped doing everything they need to do towards sobriety. So, on top of everything I was just saying, yeah, AA isn't the answer for everybody. Absolutely not. There's other ways to get sober, stay sober. My brother is sober for 31 years, and he goes to a meeting here and there, and that's mainly because he likes to help people get sober and stay sober. So he goes and helps people do that. But he's not into AA that much. When he first got sober, he hated it. He never did it. But he's been sober and he's happy. So that I have another friend, same thing. They didn't get sober through AA, and they didn't stay sober through AA. There's other methods, but what I encourage everybody to do is just be open-minded. Try everything you possibly can to get sober, because this disease it's always lurking, it's always there, and it wants to win. And if I feel if I start to bash other methods of sobriety or bash AA or whatever, I don't like this person, I'm not going to this meeting or whatever, it's going to hurt my sobriety, because my sobriety is about being happy and serene and having tools to get me through those difficult times as well. And that's what my sobriety program, that's how my sobriety program works, is just taking care of my side of the street, not worrying about other people's side of the street, unless of course it affects me, and then I deal with it. But that's being open-minded is really an important thing to keep in mind for sobriety, at least for me.
Yeah, and Andrea says it sounds like Andrea's had a really rough time with AA, which some people do. I mean, it's a group of people that were drunks, and probably some that are still drunks. And you're going to get interesting stuff. Like, was I the nicest person when I was a drunk? Probably not. I was pretty self-absorbed. She said many times over 30 years I went to AA, I got answers like, "You're selfish, you look like shit, and you need to sell your horse." That's what we call people that are telling you what to do. They're the should people, right? They should all over everyone, and they're like, "This is what you should do. This is what you should do. You need to do this." And that's one thing you got to watch out for in recovery. No one knows what you should do. No one does. I don't know what's going to work for you. I could share what's worked for me. And I think if people are going out there telling you what you need to do and what you should do, take it with a grain of salt. Like, no one made them captain of the ship. As my dad says, you walk around here like you're some damn captain, and no one made them the captain. You are going to a meeting of your free will to get what you need out of it, or go somewhere else. I mean, you are fully capable of it. But I think what happens is, one of the problems in Western civilization is we look to a savior, right? This goes down to like the deep rooted religious stuff in our culture, right? And we look to have a savior, and we're looking for someone to solve the problems for us, when in actuality, all the answers are within you. I found out that every answer to sobriety was already within me. Like when you listen to Terry and I and you nod your head, you're nodding your head because it's something you already knew, right? We're not saying anything earth shattering. It's like, hey, one of the ways to stay sober is don't go to the bar. And you nod your head and you're like, wow, that's enlightening. No, it's not. It's pretty simple, right? We all know this stuff anyway. And when you understand that you are the captain of your own sobriety, not the guy who's been sober 30 years. We have a tendency to be like, oh, well, that guy's been sober 30 years. He must have the answers I'm looking for. Oh, this group must have this. But what we need to understand is that these groups are merely pointing out things that are in us all along. You have the ability to be serene. You have the ability, when someone says sell your horse, to be like, piss off, dude. I like my horse. My horse is pretty cool. If I had a horse, I wouldn't sell my horse. I'd let him roam around in the backyard. Pretty cool, right? Or someone says they don't like the way you look, or they don't like the way they do. Go to a different place, right? We need to understand that we got to guard where we are at, and we need to understand where we're at. And one of the most important lessons I learned from AA meetings and other meetings was the ability to not really give a shit what other people say about me. This was a very difficult lesson. We are hardwired. I love it. There's a speaker named Anthony DeMello, and he says we are basically programmed and hardwired for the drug of acceptance. And the drug of acceptance is more powerful than any other drug. When you get in an argument, when you don't like what someone says, when someone pisses you off, what's happening is they're not actually pissing you off. And to prove this point, if someone I didn't like, who I had a fight with, who ripped me off and was a jerk back in the day, came up to me and was like, Marcus, I think you're an asshole. I wouldn't care what he thought because I'd be like, dude, yeah, I don't care about you. But if someone I esteem says that, then I get my feelings hurt. The words were the same. They could say the exact same thing. It's how I'm interpreting it that's different. And when we understand that the emotions that we have, for the most part, are produced because of our reaction to what other people are doing, then our life is free. Because when I first went into AA meetings or even rehab, in rehab, they made us share our story, right? We had to get up in front of everyone, stand up and share our story. And in my life, I had been a preacher. I spoke in churches. I was the guy people listened to. And I was used to speaking and getting a reaction. I would say, so, oh my God, Marcus, that's so sad. I can't believe that happened. Oh, Marcus, that's such a great thing. I like that. And when I shared my story in rehab, I remember pouring my heart out. And I was anxious as could be. I couldn't even stand straight. I was so nervous and anxious. And I got done sharing my story. And I breathed a sigh of relief. And I expected everyone to come up and, oh my gosh, you went through the ringer. How did you do? Oh, you poor little guy. Whatever it was. But that was not the case. It was Marcus. Thanks for sharing. Up next, we have Julie.
And Marcus, from that story, I couldn't tell you one word of what you said in that story when you said it. I have no idea. Don't remember anything of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And when we look at that, it frees us because we're wired for this acceptance and this stuff. And when we understand that, that's the true gift of sobriety.
Yeah.
Is the gift that I don't have to hang on your words. Like some guy in here said, I think I'm going to assume he's talking about me. He said something about this guy doesn't know what he's talking about and he's an ass or something like that. And I can look at that and I can get, irritated. And sometimes I do get irritated, but it's like, hey, that's his opinion. He's absolutely entitled to his opinion. And I'm entitled to think what I want to think. And what I choose to think is I'm no better or no worse than anyone. Right? If I was in Andrea's situation, I'd probably hate AA too. Totally. If someone told me to sell my horse and you look like shit, and this is the only way to get sober is sell your horse and admit you look like crap, I'd be like, yeah, what the hell are you guys talking? What is wrong with you people? Right? I would totally be that way. Why? Because that made him feel that way. That's the way it goes. And I would also protect myself. I'd say, yeah, I'm probably not going to go that route. maybe not going to work for me. But what I would do is I would find what does work for me.
Right.
Find out what does work. Find out what I can do to get sober. Because I'm not going to let what another group does to me jeopardize my sobriety. And this is the key to sobriety. Whether you go AA, whether you do it on your own, whether you, whatever it is, the key is an understanding that no one has the power to make you drink. No one does. Only you can make that choice. And when you give that power to other people, I remember I'd go to the Celebrate Recovery meeting and they'd start talking about Jesus and I'd get all offended because, I grew up in all kinds of cults and I've actually studied cults for a long time. And I'd get offended and I'd go to the bar. I'd just leave halfway through the meeting and I'd go get drunk. But y'all talking about drinking anyway, I might as well go drink. And I was doing that to go against what they were saying. I'll show you guys, you and your Jesus. I'm going to go over to the bar, right? Instead of saying, hey, this sobriety is about me. This is what I need. And that's what we have to focus on, is really understanding exactly what's going on, exactly how we focus on this stuff, and exactly what we're going to do to get sober, right? Because people come to me all the time and they're, oh, Marcus, this guy said this. Oh, I watched this dude on YouTube who said this. Okay, well, yeah, there's also people here that say all kinds of weird stuff. Welcome to the human condition. There's a bunch of weird people saying weird stuff. It's what they do. Do you gotta listen? Right? Why you gotta listen to this guy and not this guy? Why do you get all angry about this guy and not this? Right? And we look at it and we understand that we're all human here. No one has the answers. Take your favorite politician. He don't got all the answers. Take me. I don't have all the answers to sobriety. I have enough that works for me, and I hope I have enough to get me through my entire life. I hope I do. There's been times I've been like, hey, things are getting kind of rocky. Better do some reading, better get some outside answers because my own thoughts aren't working. And we got to understand that, because the minute you give your sobriety to a sponsor, a meeting, a religion, is the minute you give up control. And I know in a lot of recovery they talk about giving up control, but I think a lot of people miss the point. They miss the point and they say, oh, I got to give up control because I'm a weak little alcoholic. No, you're not. You're strong. Alcoholics are some of the damn strongest people I ever saw. We're the kind of people who wake up at 4:30 in the morning and we don't have any booze and we walk 2 miles with one freaking shoe on to go get drinks with no money, and somehow we convince the people to give us drinks. Tell me that ain't strong? You're strong as hell. You're just using it for the wrong reason, because you need to understand it's chemical dependency. There's a chemical component. And that's why you fight. And that's why you go to meetings. And that's why things aren't working, because you're fighting a chemical with words. First, you got to figure out how to get and stay sober for 30 days. You got to go to the doctor. You got to say, hey, I've been ingesting this chemical called alcohol that is socially acceptable, but it's screwing up my life, so please help me, right? Because detox can be deadly. Then you got to understand how the chemical works. You got to understand that you're fighting chemical dependency with a brain that was chemically altered to accept the chemical dependency, right? It's insane. And we look at it and we say, okay, now I'm going to go to this meeting and magically people are going to say things and get me sober. And some people are going to be jerks. And I'm not saying to accept people that are jerks. Don't. Someone tells you to sell your horse. Someone tells you to do things you don't want to do. You don't got to do it. You don't got to do it. You do what you got to do. And you got to focus on you and really, really, really look at it.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Let's see. Andrea says, I went to AA for over 30 years, no help. I got more sobriety after leaving the cult. You are defending AA. I'm not actually defending. I mean, if people want to use AA, that's fine. Is there bad? Yeah, there's bad in AA. Is there good? Yes, there's good in AA. Like, I can't compete with lots of people who have sober experience, and that's what that's for. Lots of people who have sober experience. And we got to look at that. And we got to understand what we need to do to get sober. For me, I don't go to AA. I did the 90 days, and that's cool. And there was some weird stuff, and there was, you could call it cultish in some areas, but in some they aren't. Like, is Terry a cult type person? Nah, he's a good guy. Goes to AA. He's got great sober knowledge, right? But some people, you gotta take care of yourself. What are your thoughts on that, Terry?
Well, for me, I don't speak for AA, and they are not responsible for my sobriety. I do go to AA meetings, but I also realize that I am responsible for my own sobriety. And I have a lot of friends that have a lot of sobriety, and they, at least from what I see, they seem to have a very happy life. And as far as the where I am right now, I'm very happy with my life, and whatever I'm doing so far is working. So yeah, I don't have to really defend anything. I'm sober, and that's if I had to defend things like AA and all that, I'd just get angry and frustrated, and it would drive me closer to a drink. Maybe, I don't know, but I just work my sobriety and not worry about what other people are thinking, or what their opinions are. I try to encourage people to be open-minded for things, and I understand that it doesn't work for some people. Absolutely, and some people have had bad experiences. I've seen that as well. And that's just it's terrible. I'm sorry for those people that have had those bad experiences, but I just try to keep moving in the right direction. And AJF said, that's what I'd say. Marcus is very well read. Don't be fooled. He studies life. I think Marcus is well read, and he's a very good speaker. So just giving you a pat on the back there, Marcus.
Thanks for that.
I do like your perspective, but yeah, like Marcus just said, he doesn't go to meetings, and he seems to be pretty happy. Maybe when we're done with this webinar, he's gonna be all angry or something and throw something through the window. I don't know. It doesn't look like it though. Looking at him, he seems fairly happy right now. But I'm just trying to stay sober because my sober life is pretty great. I'm pretty happy.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is an understanding that you can find serenity in life. You can find a life you don't have to drink away from. I created a life I had to drink away from. I had to go do it. And I would use every excuse in the book to not get sober because I was defending my habit. Like, if there was anything I defended in life, it was my drinking. That's what I defended. And I look at it now, and I'm so much more able to accept what is and accept that people have whatever they have, and they deal with things the way they deal with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on me. I'm not going to focus on what other people are doing. I'm not going to focus on the bad or the good or whatever. I'm going to focus on my life. What am I going to do to get and stay sober? What am I going to do today to get sober? Okay? Might involve a meeting, might not involve a meeting. Probably not. I got a cough, and I don't want people to think I'm spreading the virus everywhere, even though it's just asthma and allergies. And we look at that and we say, what is it that we're going to do? What am I going to do to stay sober today? And when we focus on that, we understand it. I mean, there's lots of people who watch our channel, and that's all they do, and they get sobriety from that. I wish I was strong enough back then to just watch a channel and get sober. And, that's not to say that Terry and I have all the answers. We had some answers that helped someone, and that's a good thing, I think. And we have to do that and understand, hey, there's people that have walked this before us. There's people that have gotten sober. And I wish that when I got sober, or when I was trying to get sober, that someone came along and said, hey, this is what you're dealing with. Like, you're sitting there kicking your own ass thinking that it's your problem, when in actuality it's chemical dependency. And there's people that are telling you you're a selfish punk and you're dealing with all this stuff. And while that might seem true on the outside, yes, you're selfish because you feel like you need alcohol to survive, and that's your top priority. So yeah, it's going to seem that way. But is this something you did? Did I wake up one day and say, I would like to be dependent on alcohol and push everything out of my life and only have alcohol. I think that would be a good path for my life. Let's start drinking. No, none of us did that. What we did is we slowly found out that alcohol was a helper for us. Helped my anxiety, helped me when I was angry, helped me when I was sad, helped me when I was lonely, helped me when I was thirsty, helped me when I was tired, helped me focus because my brain goes a mile a minute. And I had to realize that that eventually led to chemical dependency. And I was eventually in a point where I could not quit. Couldn't quit. I wasn't able to get over myself because I didn't understand what was going on. I thought it was pull yourself up by the bootstraps, do what you can do. And I didn't realize I was fighting a chemical component. And this is something that I see as a flaw with every recovery method that I've looked at. They don't talk about what chemical dependency is. They don't talk about how it works. They don't talk about how your mind is warped. And sadly, in life, a lot of people assume that everyone knows what's going on. They assume, oh, hey, if we say fix the stinking thinking, that you're going to know it's about this. But in actuality, when you tell an alcoholic to fix the stinking thinking, they're trying to fix the stinking thinking with the thought process that was created by alcohol, so it's impossible to do. Right? It's like, okay, it's not going to work. If I get in a car and the car has square wheels and I don't go anywhere, and I say, oh, it must be the gas. It needs more gas. No, it needs a new transmission. Doesn't matter. Until you fix the square wheels, the car ain't going to go. And even if it does go, it's going to, and it's not going to go good. You got to fix the wheels. The wheels are the drunk brain. That's what it is. Those are the wheels. And until you fix that drunk brain, until you understand, I am where I am and I'm struggling because a chemical has altered my brain. And, we're human. We think we're like the lion in the jungle and we own this shit. And I got my king hat and I'm the lion and I can take on anything. But we don't realize that we are susceptible. Even the lion is susceptible to things. In the jungle, zebras have the pattern that they have. The reason they're striped isn't just because they look cool. It's because when they turn a certain way and they're in a herd, the lion can't see them. You can go to lion and be like, ha, some tough lion you are. Throw your damn king hat off. You can't even see a zebra, stupid lion. No, it's biology. There's nothing wrong with the lion. It's the way it was designed to be. And the way your brain is designed to be is you have a built-in forgetter. You have something that says, I don't really have an alcohol problem. I could get over it on my own. Some drink ain't gonna change my mind. I mean, Marcus, I read the self-help books too. It's not gonna change my mind. But guess what it does? The slightest little thing. Like, look at it. You don't believe me? Your mind is different than it was a year ago. A year ago, you woke up and we could go outside and we could go to restaurants and we could see people without masks and we could do all kinds of things. This has affected our brains. It's affected our brains by no fault of our own. We have to look at it, and we have to look at it and understand exactly what's going on.
Yep. And that built-in forgetter is why I need to continue a sobriety program. From what I see, people that don't continue to work a sobriety program, they sometimes have a tendency to start drinking again. So it's important that I stay close to that. Next, he said, do you guys have any political opinions? And I won't read the rest, just use, but yes, I do. But I'm not going to talk about it. There's plenty of YouTube channels that talk about politics. In fact, there's way too many. I get stuck on that way too often.
Absolutely.
But, Melissa, I think this is the second time you mentioned it, but I read it the first time. Lots of vultures in the rooms. I got 13 stepped, and that means somebody was hitting on you, is from what I get. I get that. And that's unfortunate. And I've seen it happen too. And I think women sometimes are victims of that in the rooms. And I wish it doesn't happen to me, but I wish that wouldn't happen. But all I can say is maybe going to a different meeting or staying close to the women or maybe you don't go to the AA meetings anymore because of that, and that's fine too. I just think it's important to find something that works for you to stay sober.
Yep.
So that's
Next, he says, Marcus, you really like to talk too much. That's what I've noticed. You really love to just talk and talk and talk. Have you ever been evaluated for narcissistic personality disorder? I actually have, yeah. I think a lot of us have narcissistic tendencies. I probably have more. I'm going to claim that, right? A little narcissistic of me to say that I'm probably the most narcissistic. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do have that. We gotta, we gotta understand. Hey, that's what we do. I do talk for a living, so it is second nature, kind of what I do. You know, that's okay. Um, Hopefully, you get good stuff out of it.
next.
Yeah.
See, I kind of like his tangents. I'm not a big talker, if you haven't noticed, but so it's all good. I like his points. Sometimes you have to really listen to Marcus to get all his points, but he has some good stuff in there. Bad Santa, I saw that you're still sober. Good job, man. That's awesome. And then you just mentioned I lost my whole family and friends because I justify my drinking habit. I couldn't admit it that time because I was too drunk all the time. Yeah, I pushed everybody out of my life when I was drinking. And I think that's a very common thing that happens. But you get sober and stay sober, and they may come back. You may get those friends back. And if not, you can find other friends that are like my friends are mostly sober friends. And I have some good people in my life now, and it's all good.
Absolutely. Cool. Let's see. Should we take Andrea's? I have a book that I could find if you want to read those. Hold on a second. I will not hear you while I'm getting the book, though.
JM says the AA meeting recently I attended, they brought up pause, and it can last 2 years. What are your thoughts? Um, Post-acute withdrawal syndrome, is that what pause is? I think.
Did I miss anything?
Jim was asking about a meeting that he went to that brought up pause. It's post-acute withdrawal syndrome, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate when I finally did get sober. I did not have any repercussions or any pause affected me. But one of the writers or contributors to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, he had symptoms for 2.5 years, and he had cravings for 2.5 years, and he just put sobriety as his top priority and just kept reminding himself what was going to happen if he started drinking again. And he was able to finally get sober and stay sober. And I think that's all you can really do is just try to build that life. Like Marcus said a little bit earlier, build that life you don't have to run away from, so you can focus on sobriety. And that's what tends to work for me and what I've seen work for other people. But I see it fairly often.
Absolutely. Um, I'll bring this up because Andrea says something. And I'll bring this up because this is something that I dealt with. I had trouble getting sober because I thought that all the groups were cult like. I even went a story. I had a life coach, and this life coach took me to a seminar. And, throughout my family, my dad used to go to seminars. We used to learn from self help and all kinds of stuff. This is like ingrained in my family, been doing it for years. And my life coach took me to this seminar, and I had to Google everything about the seminar before we went there. So I already went to the seminar with a prejudged idea, and then I go to the seminar, and it's very cultish, right? It's weird. And at the end, they're like, "Hey, sign up for this weekend retreat for $1,000 or whatever." And I was like, "This must be bullshit." And I threw the baby out with the bathwater, even though I had listened to the guy's talks and stuff. And I'm not saying you have to dive into everything full, but what I am saying is I missed it. I was there. I was drunk. I was anxious. I was dealing with things. I went to the seminar. I said, "This is a cult. This is stupid. I'm not going to do it." And it wasn't AA related. It was a self help kind of thing from the 80s. And it had all kinds of like backlash from news and all kinds of stuff. It was called the S Training, if you ever heard of that, now known as Landmark Forum. Again, not endorsing Est or Landmark, because basically, follow with me here. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I can't listen to this guy. He's talking out of his ass because I know the truth. I know the truth. You can't pull one over on me. And I sat there like this, And I laughed at everyone that was signing up. And I didn't realize that the philosophy that came out of is the philosophy that got me sober today. The reason I'm sober today is because of that life philosophy that I walked out on. Like, I literally sat there and it was like, they're telling me the key, but I can't accept it because I'm labeling it. Okay, very, very, very important. So we got to look at this. Now, that was to say that what Andrea says is you people realize that, and she's talking about AA, which we are not advocates of AA. Like, if you want to go, go. If you don't want to go, don't. But I do want to address the point and not necessarily the content. Okay, the content is there's this group. The point is, you people realize this spiritual program is based on seances and occult. Okay, first of all, the word occult is taken out of context. If you actually look at what an occult is, most of it's not bad. Like, we have this idea that it's a bunch of people that, do weird things. And for the most part, it's actually not. Right? I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and we've seen a lot of them come true this year. And actually, the theory came true, but the actual theory was not true. And so we look at that and we understand. Now, if you look at it, first of all, get your facts straight, because I used to sit in that room when the guy was talking, and I had my little facts that said this guy's bad, so I'm not going to listen. And so I sat there and I didn't listen. I didn't have an open mind because I had already closed it. All right. So now, first, if you get the facts right, AA was actually started as the Oxford Group. It was started by evangelical Christians back in the 1920s. A lot of them were stockbrokers, and when the stock market took a shit, people were like, we need to go to the bar because I don't know what to do. And so they developed this system, and they tried to help people get and stay sober. As far as seances and rituals, I haven't seen any of that in any AA room I've gone to. I actually haven't seen that in any recovery group I've gone to. And, even that, what if they do a seance? What does that even mean? Who knows? Right? It probably is like, what's the difference between a seance and praying to a different religious thing? Right? Unless you're hurting people, which most of the time I don't think they're hurting people. So we got to understand where it comes from. We got to look at the facts, and we got to understand what they're trying to share with us, because the meaning is behind the bullshit. Right? There was a lot of bullshit. Werner Erhard had this issue. The S training did this. They did this. And guess what? Most of those issues were true. Was it cult-like? Sure, absolutely. Is a landmark forum today cult-like? I don't know. I haven't gone through it, but it seems pretty cult-like to me. Do they have something that can help me? Yeah, they do. Do I need to go sing Kumbaya with them every week? I do not. I'm going to take what helps me, because if you actually look at it, Werner Erhard got his tips from Eastern mysticism, and what he did is he packaged it for yuppies, right? In the 80s, there was a thing called yuppies, where they were like these professionals that used to be hippies, but now they're like, we're going to be businessmen now. And it's perfect market. The dude's a marketing genius. And he created this thing based on like Alan Watts and Ram Dass, but packaged it for other people. Now, Alan Watts and Ram Dass, the life philosophy they taught me, which surprisingly, they are both admitted druggies. Wait, Mark, did you just say your sober philosophy is based on drug addicts? I did. Because they can talk about their drugs, but what I take from it is what I choose to take from it. And that, my friends, gets me sober. Because I can say, hey, I'm going to take this. And this takes all the pressure and all the power out of everything, because now all I'm doing is scouring the world for what I choose to believe and what I want to believe, and what I say is good and what I say is bad. And even that is subjective, because guess what? I used to think I had the power to get and stay sober on my own. I used to think that my brain was fine and it wasn't chemically altered. And once I learned all bets were off, I was like, hey, I'm now free. And freedom is the side effect that sobriety never promised. And if you look at it that way and you say, it doesn't matter what they're doing. If they want to do a seance and get sober, that's cool. That's cool. I like the scented candles they use in their seance. I think I'll get one of those. That's pretty cool. It's like an applewood birch. I'm going to pick one of those up. Doesn't mean I'm going to do seances. It just means I'm going to do this. And when we start to look at it, don't hang your sobriety on someone else's thing.
I'm sorry, I was laughing at Nexie.
That was a good one. Yeah. Was it the please stop, you're going to talk for 10 minutes straight?
My sobriety, it just comes down to my sobriety is my responsibility, and I do whatever I can. Some of the things that the meetings have done for me, that I did, some of the unexpected things that they do and that they've done is, going into the meetings, there's people that I'm tired of listening to because I hear them every week or every day or whatever, and their stories are always the same thing. It teaches right there. I learned patience. I mean, I learned these real life. I learned how to talk in front of people. If I want to share something, I got to stand up in front of 40 people and say something and try and figure out how to form the words. And try and say something smart and inspirational and philosophical. It helps me. It helps me with real life situations. It teaches me to be empathetic for somebody that may be sharing about something that's going on in their life that's terrible. And it helps me I didn't have any of this when I was drinking. I didn't care about anybody else. I cared about me, cared about where my next drink was going to come from. Cared about making sure I wasn't going to run out that night. Cared about, making sure nobody knows I'm drinking too much. That's all I cared about. So it taught me empathy. There's so many things that I learned. Accountability. If I didn't go to right now all the meetings are Zoom, so you can not show up and pretty much nobody notices unless it's one of those smaller ones. But if I didn't show up to one that I was going to every week, I might get a phone call. Hey, Terry, you all right? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, I have a doctor's appointment. Oh, okay, cool, man. All right. People actually genuinely care. And so it just helps me get back into life. It's the AA rooms were kind of practice for real life. Because real life, it's not necessarily nice all the time. We have to deal with things. And the way I used to deal with things was picking up that drink. And now I don't have to. I know how to deal with those things. I can, rather than respond negatively to something, I can pause and then just respond in a positive manner. And that's what I can do with it. So, whatever direction you go for sobriety, it's okay. Just try to find something and make it a priority. And that's what I did. I made sobriety my top priority, and I've been able to stay sober so far. So hopefully I'll be able to keep doing that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Buzzworthy says, it may sound harsh to say all suffering comes from ego. Yes, I absolutely agree. Suffering is because I want something to be different than it is, or I want someone to be different than they are. And I learned in sobriety the best you could do is ask for cooperation. If you don't get it, you go somewhere you do get it, or you figure out a different way. Vortex, what's the difference between the drunk and the alcoholic? The drunk doesn't have to go to damn meetings. Well, yes and no. I don't think any of us have to go to meetings unless you're court ordered, obviously. But I never had to go to a meeting. I wanted to get sober. Like that's what I wanted to do, and that was one of the things I could look at there. Paige, I've been
Let me take that one.
Okay.
Because yeah, I had that. I've been self-detoxing after speaking with my doctor. I do undergo DTs and have been experiencing hallucinations this last between day 2 and 4 of my detox. What is your experience with DT? Well, one thing I'm confused with is, are you still going through DTs? But with that in mind, DTs are extremely dangerous. The last time I stopped drinking on my own. I did not go to a doctor. I wasn't in contact with the doctor, but if you're going through DTs and the doctor just said write them out, I don't know about that part. You may want to call them again and tell them exactly what you're experiencing. Because for me, I ended up having grand mal seizures, and they put me on meds, and every time they tried to take me off of them, I had seizures. The seizures would come back, and that lasted for about 2 weeks. They had to put me in an induced coma for 2 weeks. They said I wasn't going to get better. And I did get better, as you can see. Well, I think I'm better. But, DTs are extremely dangerous, especially if you're hallucinating or any of those symptoms. You can Google symptoms of detox and they'll come right up. And there's quite a few different symptoms. But doctor, absolutely. And I ended up going to the hospital. I spent some time there, and I was messed up. I was physically messed up for months before I started to feel better and get better. It was a difficult thing to go through, and I hope nobody has to go through it. So it can be a dangerous thing.
Absolutely. And guys, I forgot to do our commercial. Got to do our commercial. If you want help getting and staying sober, we have set up a group for you over at talksober.com. This will help support the channel and what we're doing here. And you can get all kinds of MP3s, videos, worksheets, and my book and everything to help you get and stay sober. Just go to talksober.com, click on the big yellow button, fill this form out. It'll send you your logins instantly, and you'll be able to get access to all that information and tons of cool stuff to help you get and stay sober. And it'll help support what we're doing on the channel, which is pretty cool.
Right on. Next, you're saying what was your best motivation to stop drinking? And for me, it was as simple as the fact that the consequences that were coming from alcohol were outweighing the benefits I was getting from alcohol. It was pretty much that simple. Basically, my life was falling apart, and that's what happened. That was my motivation. But you guys can stop drinking before that happens. Me, I had to let it all fall apart.
Absolutely. Me too. I had to go to a mental hospital to figure out drinking made me not sane. All right. Any last minute words of wisdom, Terry?
Well, that wasn't very wisdom filled. Really, just like echoing what I've said throughout this hour, is really do whatever it's going to take for you. Try not to look down on any form of recovery. If it doesn't work for you, just step away and move on and try something else. Your sobriety is your responsibility. Nobody's going to do it for you. And if you really want to get sober, you can. But you really have to want to do it. And on top of that, you have to do it. You have to follow through, and you have to keep trying. And if you fail, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you were, what happened. Just start again, try again. And it might stick.
Absolutely. And also guard yourself. Remember that whatever route you take, there are bad actors everywhere. Just happens to be the way the cookie crumbles. But the way to deal with that is to understand that you are in charge of what you do. I'm in charge of it. It's my sobriety, not that guy over there. And you don't have to sell your horse to get sober. Be all right. All right. So, thanks for being here, guys. I hope you enjoyed this talk. I hope it helps you get and stay sober. Support the channel. Go to talksober.com. Click the big yellow button. As always, if you need anything, let us know. We also have our Facebook group you can check out. Go to talksober.com. Click on the Facebook link, and you can join that group and talk to other alcoholics that are trying to get sober even. Thanks for being here, guys. See you next week.